Hey everybody, how you doing? It's a sort of cold, rainy day out today, and I felt like doing something a little different, and Valentine's Day is right around the corner, so I think this would be an appropriate time to read another Lemon fanfic. How about you? Of course you think it is, yes. So last time, we did the Nami and Luffy fanfic reading, which got a lot of positive reception. That was a lot of fun to do. So this time I decided to go a little bit of a different angle with it. Still involving two Straw Hats, but this time Franky and Robin, huh? Ever think of them as a couple? Even if you haven't, it's okay. The internet already has. The internet has literally paired up every Straw Hat, every possible combination. Nami and Sanji, Nami and Franky, Brook and Chopper, Chopper and Zoro. They're all out there somewhere if you're willing to look hard enough, okay? But today I decided to go with Robin, who is my favorite female character in the series, and Franky, who is my favorite character in the series, period. So yeah, let's just dive right into this. Let's do this. The title of this fanfic that we're going to be looking at today is A Hammer in Her Ocean. God. All right. And it comes to us from the author of Not a Fanfic Author. That's the name of the author, is Not a Fanfic Author. I don't know if that's a good sign or not, that someone who is claiming to not be a fanfic author is writing a fanfic, but I have high hopes for this. Just with the title alone, I have high hopes for this, okay? It's been out for a while. It was published in 2009, so about 10 years ago, almost. This was right around the time of the Impel Down arc. This was right when I started reading One Piece on a weekly basis, actually, so this will hopefully maybe capture that feeling that I had at the very beginning, when you start reading One Piece regularly. Yeah, that'll capture the moment, really. Okay, so yeah, let's dive right into it. After 12 straight hours of furiously drafting in the workshop, yes, that's what they call it when Franky works in his workshop, Franky was ready to admit that he was feeling uninspired. Tiredly, he examined his latest drawing before him, which a little focusing of the eyes revealed it to be no more than wild, incoherent scribblings. Interesting. Abruptly, he crumpled it up and tossed it over his shoulders so it could join a pile of his other little failures that were quickly overtaking the small room. Okay, so Franky's got carpentry block, okay? We've all been there before. We've all picked up a hammer and some nails, and we just started, nailing them into planks of wood and hoping something happens at the end of the day. Unless this is like in a RPG where you can just take 3 scraps of wood, a hammer, and a nail and make a freaking perfect dresser out of it. That's not the case here. So Franky's having a little bit of problems. It's okay, though, because I think I know where this is going. He'd want to invent a more cola-efficient Gao cannon since firing it required 5 whole barrels of the stuff, and he'd recently come to realize that not every island they anchored on was familiar with the concept of cola. That's actually a pretty good idea, maybe make the Gao cannon a little bit more efficient, maybe 3 barrels instead of 5, because you figure, yeah, every island you land on, like the thing that happened with the time skip, he gets sent to Baltimore, and they had that whole filler where they didn't even have any cola on the island. He's like, they knew what it was, like, he's a cyborg that runs on cola, but we've banned all soft drinks on the island, whatever will we do? Throw some tea in there, he'll be fine. And then he turned into Gentleman Franky. Absolutely criminal. Normally, he'd just recommend that they use the cannon very rarely, but the others, especially Straw Hat, seemed to love it so. In their shipwright, he couldn't just let them down like that. Okay, so that's fair enough. I mean, okay, you're riding on the Thousand Sunny, okay? You don't know that there's a giant laser cannon in the mouth of the lion. I almost said in the mouth of the sunflower. And they fire this thing off at Duval's place, and you're like, okay, we have that. You're gonna want to use that as much as possible. Alright, you're gonna want the moment where the Straw Hats roll into town, and then like, oh, it's the Straw Hat Pirate, oh, they got a laser cannon! Boom! And it just blows away their entire operation, okay? So, Luffy and Usopp and Chopper will probably like, can we use that, like, as our opening gambit? We just arrive at an island and we just launch the cannon just to show them that we're here, So, fair enough, fair enough. That being said, he'd solved the efficiency issue 11 hours ago. The problem now was designing the new details he intended to have decorating the barrel, and he was far from satisfied with reusing the old... Okay, that's funny. So, Franky's like, I need to figure out a new way to efficiently transmit the energy from cola into a power supply for this giant laser air cannon I have. It takes him 1 hour to figure that out, but then the remaining 11 hours are like, okay, how am I going to design this barrel? Alright, I need to make it look pretty dang cool, and I am not there yet. He has all these different star designs, you know, and alright, that makes sense for Franky. This week's me is just not in the zone, Franky muttered in a defeated tone unbefitting of his hulking cyborg of a man. I'm gonna try to read that again, because he didn't seem to be in a... It's hard to encapsulate Franky in a defeated tone, you know, he's usually very super. It's like, this week's me is just not in the zone. Maybe something like that. He leaned back in his chair to stare blankly at the wall. For the time that he had in the day, he noticed the clock, already past 1. Wait, was that AM or PM? Hell, it didn't matter anymore. He just needed to get some air and clear his mind. Come at this thing with a fresh new perspective. Yeah, that's... Actually, you know what? That's honestly probably the best idea. You know, a lot of times when you're doing something and it's just annoying the crap out of you and you just can't figure it out, it is probably best just to move away from it for a little while and then come back to it later and you're like... Oh wait, why didn't I just do this the entire time? My grandfather, he was trying to build a shed once, and he just couldn't get the shed level, and he was like angrily like screaming at the thing forever, and then he just left and came back. He's like, oh, why don't I just wedge this under this instead of doing... There, done. So there you go. Shed building is an important foreplay before you get into any lemon. It's gonna get intense. I haven't read this yet, so maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Maybe this whole fanfic is just about Franky building a barrel. We'll get there at some point. All right. He climbed up to the deck and was pleasantly surprised to find that it was indeed night. There was a cool breeze that made the sweeping patterns of the grass and not a sight or sound of his normally lively crewmates. All right, so everybody's asleep. A lot of these fanfics involving the Straw Hats boning have to take place at night because, you know, if it just happens in the middle of the day, then that's just awkward for everybody involved, you know. If you know, Usopp and Luffy are out fishing on the side of the Sunny and then they just start hearing moaning sounds coming from inside the Sunny, like, yeah, it's a little bit awkward, you know. Okay. So, Franky folded his broad arms over his chest and smiled at the peaceful scene. Yup, nice and quiet. Super quiet. I'm imagining Franky is saying this to himself. He's not just thinking it. He actually is saying, it's quiet. Super quiet, even. Couldn't get any quieter than that. Okay, so maybe it was a little too peaceful. Oh, wait a second. Something going on here. He needed to find some life on this ship. He remembered that Straw Hat, Usopp, and Chopper have caught a lot of weird fish the other day and have put them all in the aquarium, so he decided to head over there to chill and get his thoughts straight. Opening the door, he was met with the sight of someone's back as they stared into the large tank. Squinting in the darkness, he realized it was Robin, and the tall, raven-haired woman turned to face him, a little startled at the sound of the door. Her expression quickly changed to an amused one, which he could guess coming from his frazzled appearance, the dropping forelock and the graphite marks all over his face where he thoughtlessly wiped his hands. Whatever, he was too tired to care. Alright, now, it's also important to mention, this was written in 2009, okay? This was not very long after the events of Enies Lobby, where Franky joined the crew. This was after Thriller Bark, so Brooke is the newest member still, but Franky is still relatively new as well. And this isn't too much long after the whole ball squeezing incident, you know, how Robin, you know, persuaded Franky to join the crew. And let me tell you, man, if you ever suffer a ball injury, you never forget the person that divvied out that ball injury. I'm talking to you, Jeremy. 3rd grade. That soccer ball was not supposed to go there. But anyway, yeah, you don't forget those certain things. So, yeah. Let's see where this is going, though. It's the aquarium. It's night. It's a romantic setting. You got the fish floating in the background. Everything is probably tinted blue, you know, and then Franky's there, and Robin just stands up. So let's see where this is going. Robin, what are you doing here in the dark by yourself? You could turn the light on, you know. I know. However, I wouldn't want to ruin the nice atmosphere this room already has. It's very soothing, don't you agree? Yeah, he knew what she meant. The blush moonlight coming through the glass open to the outside cast the soft rippling light from the water's surface across the walls and the floor. Okay, yeah, so it's an aquarium, you know, so it's a nice little water effect on the entire room. That's a nice little setting. Broken only by the shadows of fish dodging about here and there. It was kind of surreal, actually. So why are you still up anyway? It's super late. Franky walked over to where she was, leaning against the glass, and propped himself down on the couch lining the wall. It wasn't the first time he'd run into her late at night on the ship. They seemed to be the only night owls aboard, Franky agonizing over many an unfinished design, and Robin often unable to put down an interesting read. Not to mention that all the caffeine that got out of their respective preferred beverages. Yes, because Franky I don't have any soda, I'm not a soda guy, but he's got a lot of caffeine, and Robin drinks tea. She's a tea drinking kind of lady, you know? And also, you figure Robin, I mean, on a daily basis, she has to deal with all the noises on the crew and everything. Like, Sanji, come over here, I want some meat. Oh, stop, I caught a giant fish. Zora, would you, she has to deal with that on a daily basis. So at the end of the day, when Usopp and Luffy and Chopper all conked out, that's probably the time she's like, it's quiet, finally. Let me just curl up with a good book. You know, it's the one time of day I can just get some peace, you know? Okay. The respective beverages. The younger members of the crew probably needed their rest with all the energy they expended throughout the day, goofing off, arguing, and even Brooks slept like a dead man. Yo! Okay. This is not a Brook fanfic. We'll get to Brooks boners eventually, don't worry. No particular reason. I just had some thoughts to sort out that wouldn't let me sleep, Robin replied in her usual subdued tone that was always easy on the ears. Oh, yes, of course, Robin. You're always easy on the ears. What does that imply? What does that imply? You and me both, Franky said with a grin. He was glad of the company, and out of all of his comrades, he was definitely the most at ease with the calm, mature archaeologist, Nico Robin. While putting on his wildest acts for his adoring younger siblings, well, just Chopper, actually, it was fun and all, but he appreciated having someone around that could actually have an adult conversation with. Okay, an adult conversation with Franky is either going to involve Speedos, Hawaiian shirts, cola, or, I don't know, building a giant laser cannon that's shaped like a turtle or something. So, probably not the most mature conversations ever. I don't really see ever sitting down with Franky and having a conversation like, what are your favorite books that you like to read, Franky? I don't really see that coming, but okay, yeah, Franky is in his 30s. Robin is actually, before the time skip, Robin is 28, so Franky's still older. But yeah, they are the older members of the crew, and then aside, of course, from Brooke, who's like 88 in this pre-time skip. The two of them even made a pretty good fighting team, battling their way through some really tough spots together back at Ennie's lobby in Thriller Bark. Man, what a struggle it had been since he teamed up with these guys. It's still a little scary. I'll say, wait, what? Franky blurted out, interrupted from his musings. Franky has musings. Robin laughed softly at his awkward response. The sea, she continued. For a devil fruit user like me, I can't help it being somewhat of a source of fear. To think, if this glass of tank were to shatter, I'd be completely helpless to prevent myself from drowning. Okay. Anybody else, I'd be like, whoa, where did that come from? But with Robin, yeah, that's kind of her shtick, isn't it? She's talking about like, oh yes, he sunk under the ocean. I wonder if he's dead. Oh no, we'd see blood bubbling up if he was dead. That's the kind of stuff Robin does. So it's like, yeah. And it makes sense. I mean, if you had a devil fruit power and you couldn't swim, especially Robin, she's had her fruit power ever since she was like a little kid, at least 8 years old. So yeah, I'd be kind of terrified of the sea a little bit as well. Like just on a subconscious kind of level, if nothing else. Hey, quit it with the morbid ideas already. Is this what you stay up and think about? Jeez. Besides, I made this special glass super strong. The cyborg flexed a huge tattoo arm for emphasis. I made this super plexi-urethane glass, Robin. It's safe. Robin just nodded and smiled at one of her mysterious smiles. Well, thank you. The effort is appreciated. For me, this is nothing. Franky exuded complete confidence outwardly, but from somewhere beneath his complex, robotic inner workings, a worrisome thought began surfacing. Did she really still think about death this often? He didn't want to believe that, nor after all that's has happened. Oh, yeah. This is kind of getting on the side, the same track that happened with Nami and Luffy, where like Nami was having like nightmares and dreams about like Arlong and everything, and then she goes out to meet Luffy, and then they just end up getting it on. So I guess that's a common theme for these fanfics, you know, like Robin is staying up late wondering about her eventual death as the demon child, and Franky just happens in, and you know, one thing leads to another, and yeah, that's where it goes. Okay, we're getting there. You must really love the ocean, though, to build a room like this, she said, returning her focus to the tank, her pale blue eyes reflecting the deepest blue within it. Growing up in a city where it surrounds you like Water 7, building magnificent ships to sail upon it and explore it, you never even change out your swimming gear, do you? I guess you're right about that, looking down proudly at his prized Speedo. Okay. Yes, this is my prized Speedo, Robin. Oh, boy. It was a love he had taken for granted. He'd been sailing the Grand Line since before he was out of diapers, and even after he had been abandoned on the scrap island, he kept doing everything he could to test his strength against it. Building battleships, or swimming into the strongest currents, getting hit by a train. That's not in there, but it happened. Not because he resented its power and many dangers, but because the sea fascinated the young Franky endlessly, and he wanted to get the full experience out of it. Luffy and Chopper as well, even though they're the same predicament as I am, they don't fear it at all. They want to see everything this ocean has to offer, even if that means falling right into it, which they have on multiple occasions. Has Robin ever fallen into the water? I don't think that's ever happened. It's happened before a lot of times with Luffy and Chopper, where they'll jump off the side of the ship, like, look at that cool shark, let's try to catch it. Oh crap, right, we can't swim. I think that's really more just an issue with time. You know, because Chopper's really not that old. Luffy's had his fruit for 10 years, but he's Luffy. Robin's had her fruit for, you know, pushing like, you know, probably maybe close to 25 years. Let's see here. Franky listened contently to the bright laughter in Robin's voice, letting some of his early frustrations melt away. He'd remembered wondering if she was capable of laughing at all when he'd met the stoic, brooding archaeologist for the first time. Maybe it's because the sea is something so forbidden to them that they deserve it all the more. Okay, we're starting to get into parallel territory here. She traced a slender hand along the glass, following the path of a brightly colored fish. Seeing them like that, I began to think maybe I could be like that too. I'd always pretended to didn't scare me so it wouldn't reveal that weakness to anyone, so that they couldn't take advantage of me. With my knowledge and heritage already being used against me, I didn't want to give the world one more method for destroying me. Franky whipped his head around to look at the tall beauty's profile, scrutinizing her as if to make sure he'd heard her right. He was shocked that she would share such a personal piece of information with him, even if they'd been friends for a long while now. He had forgotten how... you haven't known each other for that long. He had forgotten how vulnerable this dangerous woman could be when someone got a hold of her weakness. Seeing her face now only made her think of the helpless Robin chained by his side at the Tower of Justice, and how he'd hoped so much for his rough words to be able to reach her, to somehow offer her comfort, to make her look at him with some hope in those eyes. Franky was brought hurtling back to the present when he realized he had been fighting a strong urge to reach out and hold her hand. Oh man, it's getting into it now. He pulled his arm back with light speed only a mechanical arm could have withstood. Yes, it's like, must hold hand, no, override, you know, reboot, you know, hold the arm back. Just as he'd opened his mouth to rattle off the first lame excuse he could think of, Robin dealt the killing blow. Whoa, did I skip a paragraph? Where did that happen? Just as he opened his mouth to rattle off the first lame excuse he could think of, Robin dealt the killing blow. And that's when it's revealed this is not a fanfic of a lemon. No, this is a fanfic where Robin straight up kills Franky. Yeah, didn't expect that coming, did you? No. So I wanted to thank you, Franky, for building this incredible ship and helping me overcome that fear. I'm actually beginning to enjoy the ocean here aboard the Sunny. She turned to him, the strange lighting softening her elegant facial features as she gave him a smile warmer than the most tropical summer island. with those deep, captivating eyes projecting more genuine gratitude and admiration than she should have ever been possible for those two eyes. It's getting there. Franky, I felt there's a little bit more of a build-up to this than the Nami one, but we're getting there. It's gonna take a little bit of setup, okay? You just can't start off a fanfic with, like, Robin walking into Franky's workshop and be like, hey, are you tired? Let's bang, you know? No, you gotta build up to it, especially with a character like Robin, you know? You can't just jump right in, okay? Franky felt the steel reinforcements of his body melting down and forming a puddle of white-hot lava beneath his bare feet. Akainu is apparently attacking the Sunny now. He wanted to strong hammer himself in the head for not realizing how breathtakingly beautiful this woman was. It had been hard to think of her as anything but the demon child he'd been shown on the wanted poster 8 years ago. Even though he had ceased to see her as a threat, he certainly hadn't given much thought of her being a woman or how attractive a woman she was. The gears are starting to click in Franky's head at this point. Just like, wait a second, hold on. Robin, woman, tall, long legs, big boobs, long hair. Oh my god, she's hot! It took a while for him to get there, but he's getting there. Okay. Franky pulled down his shades to hide the embarrassment that he was sure to have written all over his face. No problem, he answered after a long and awkward pause. Oh, great. He was 34 years old, for crying out loud. This wasn't the time to revert to a silly teenage boy. The ever-cool Robin, on the other hand, didn't seem at all surprised by his discomfort. No, she feeds off of it. Instead, she let out an airy giggle and continued her merciless assault on the emotions with that warm smile. That sly woman she had probably known about his feelings all along. That being the situation, he decided he should put things out in the open. Robin, he began, you... It must have been difficult to accept me, she interrupted. Her tone changed drastically. She knows where this is going at this point. Like, Robin's pretty good at reading people, you know. Okay, all right, I know where this is going. All right, I'll roll with it. Let's see how far this train can get to the station, you know. Her tone changing drastically from before, she lowered her head, seemingly deep in thought, but Franky still caught the hint of pain in her eyes. You said your teacher died protecting those blueprints. There must have been many times when you wished me captured or dead at that. The sad thing is, it probably is true. Franky felt the pangs of guilt stabbing him through the heart like a spear. It was when most of his anger had been directed at that Sponda bastard that he had been moments where he'd stopped to think about how much simpler life would be if Nico Robin had just died at the hands of the Marines. You know, the whole point Tom died, and it was all because of the blueprints at the end of the day. And, you know, Nico Robin was out there looking for the blueprints. So even though it was the world government that was really at fault here, yeah, I'm sure there were a few times where Franky kind of like, man, I wish because he had no idea who this demon child was, you know, just like, man, I just wish this woman would just go away and just disappear so I don't have to worry about hiding these damn things anymore, you know? Let's see. No, it's not like that, you see, and yet you still did all those things for me. And you are still doing all those things for me now. And you will continue to do those things for me in the near future. That wasn't in there, I added that. Robin, I never deserved that much kindness from you. That was Robin saying that. Robin? Robin was startled to hear the shipwright's deep voice from directly in front of her this time. She looked up to see his angular face with a dead serious expression looming inches away from her own. His towering form was hunched over to meet her at eye level, and his oversized hands were pressed against the glass of the tank on either side of her head. For the first time since they met, Robin actually felt a little intimidated by this powerful man. Don't you remember what I told you before, Nico Robin? Franky. They were so close now she could see her reflection in the metal nose. Oh, God. That kind of ruined it. Okay, so I want you to imagine this. Fish tank behind them, like fish tanks right here. You know, it's freaking Robin right up against the fish tank, and Franky's like, boom. Robin, Franky, Robin, and then it's like, I can see your reflection in your little shiny nose. I'm like, damn, man, that's... Okay, where's my hammer? I need my hammer. Hey, where are we going? Okay. When she got up the nerve to look him straight in the eye, he continued, "Just existing can never be a crime." Hearing those same words that had so greatly moved her that day on the sea train, Robin was suddenly ashamed for ever implying that someone as compassionate as Franky could resent her. Even with a body that was now mostly steel and weapons, he still expressed the deepest of human emotions more openly than she ever could. Franky's face softened when he saw the beginnings of tears in Robin's eyes. Taking one hand and cupping her chin, he tilted her heads up so they were eye to eye again. "Kiss her, you cyborg pump freaking-door bastard! Do it!" All right. "And just loving you can't be a crime." Oh, man, he's going right in. "Just loving you can't be a crime either," he said, more for himself. To hell with it. His brain didn't seem to be functioning right at all this week. He leaned in all the way and pressed his lips against her passionately in a kiss, feeling the wetness of a single tear against his face as Robin shut her eyes. She soon returned the kiss with equal fervor, wrapping long, graceful arms around his neck as he began to lose himself in the ensuing tornado of emotions. His mind was rapidly flooded with hundreds of images of the women he'd come to love. The distrustful face of a young girl on a wanted poster, the crumpled, defeated figure of a woman lying next to him on a cold floor, her tearful face as she screamed out her desire to live, a grateful Robin smiling in thanks for her comrade's rescue. All of those experiences and sensations seemed so immediate and fully realized now in the taste of her lips. Wow, that's poetry right there. Okay, so when are they going to get to banging? Overcome with his newfound passion for her, he deepened the kiss, searching her mouth for an answer to the burning desire welling up inside of him. This would be funny if they were in the middle of kissing and like Robin presses her tongue into Franky's mouth and she activates like a switch inside of him, like, self-destruct protocol has been initiated. Like, damn it, why did I put that switch in my mouth? Ooh, it was the safest place, I thought, for the moment. Okay. Oh, let me see if I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit here. All right. Here we go. Robin closed her eyes, basking in the projective glow of his acceptance. Being close to someone like this, being needed, she had never wanted to admit how much she'd longed for those things. It was no wonder Franky had been able to draw so many followers to his family back in Water 7, with a welcoming aura like this. She was surprised when he suddenly grabbed her shoulders and stared her down with that dead serious expression again. The expression that Robin's expression at full power can shatter mountains in half, okay? Except for the whole ball grabbing thing. That's all on you. Robin could not conceal her amusement and had to muffle her laugh with the cloth of his shirt before she could say anything with a straight face. "Very well. I'll accept full responsibility for that one." Okay, what does that imply? Franky grinned wildly and lowered himself back onto the couch with a sigh, the exhaustion of the day finally taking its toll. Robin followed suit, resting her dark-haired head against his shoulder. They took in the peaceful scene of the aquarium once more together, reflecting on how dreamlike quality had been at the moment. Just as he was about to nod off, Franky heard Robin whisper softly, "To tell you the truth, it was never my devil fruit that made me fear the sea." What do you mean? It was thought of being alone out there. Oh God, that's just sad. That's just... Robin! Okay. I'd like to tell you about it sometime, she continued, her voice fading almost to nothing. O'Hara. Oh no, where is this going? This was not supposed to be this. This was supposed to be them banging. You're not supposed to... Okay. Fair enough. This is actually ending soon, and I don't think they're gonna get to the sex scene. I don't think there was intended to be a sex scene here. But well, hey, you know what? I'm glad I read this, because you know what? This was good. This was a good story. It was very, very emotional. Funny, I was thinking of a story I'd like to tell you too. Franky responded drowsily. Looking forward to it? As he drifted off to sleep, it occurred to him that he'd completely forgotten about all those canon details he was supposed to finish. It also occurred to him that the two of them would make an awkward scene for their younger friends in the morning. He took in the flowery scent of Robin's hair and decided it did not matter. Demon child or not, he was sure Tom would have been happy for him. Tom, it just appears as Franky and Robin are like cuddling on the couch and like kissing each other. Franky's master Tom just appears in the aquarium because he's a fish man, just floating there with the other fish, like his spirit. And he's like, "Way to go, Franky. Do her with a dawn." Gotta do it with a dawn, Franky. True to Franky's prediction, they did create quite the commotion in the morning when the baffled Nami walked in, followed by a tearful Sanji, a curious Chopper, and enthusiastic Luffy. Luffy, why are you enthusiastic about that? They walk in and they're cuddling. Maybe some of their clothes are all over the... I don't know if it was implied they boned in the intermeeting time. Because one second they're chilling out on the couch just cuddling. The next second it's the next morning and everyone's coming in. So I'm just going to assume that, yeah, they had sex. And their clothes are all over the aquarium and they're just lying naked on the couch. And Luffy is enthusiastic about that. I can understand Sanji walking in and his heart just shattering into a million pieces. Chopper being confused, like, "Nami, what are Franky and Robin doing naked?" You know? And then you have Luffy that's just like, "Franky, that's so cool! When did you install a new cannon in yourself?" You know what? It's Franky. I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if post-time skip Franky figured out a way to modify his family jewels into an actual weapon. You know what I mean? You ever watch From Dusk Till Dawn, the scene with Tom Savini's character where he has literally a cod piece that like falls off of the front of his pants and it has like a revolver underneath in the shape of a dick. So it just... So maybe something like that with Franky. I don't know. An embarrassed Usopp, an inappropriate Brook. Oh, Brook, what are you doing now? An inappropriate... So he walks in and he rips off his own clothes and he's like, "Let's... Three's a crowd, but, you know, I'm a skeleton, so I don't really count you." Oh, whatever. And finally, an apathetic Zoro. Zoro don't give a shit. Zoro wakes up in the morning, he grabs his freaking barbell and starts working out, maybe grabs some... I don't think Zoro's going to start drinking sake at, you know, first thing in the morning, so he grabs some OJ to go train. He's just drinking OJ, walking by the aquarium, everyone's like, "Ah!" And he's just like, whatever. And he just goes up to start training for the day. Alright, so that was that. I like this. I enjoyed this. It wasn't as graphic as the Nami and Luffy one, but, you know, I still think it got its point across pretty damn well. They did a good job at this, so let me know what you guys think. I'll put the link to the fanfic below if you want to go read it as well. But yeah, Franky and Robin. What should be my next fanfic I should read here? And it doesn't necessarily have to involve the Straw Hats. I threw out an idea to read a Perona x Mihawk one, so I got to start looking around to try to find a good one there. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and have a good night. Have a good night.